Hi guys, and welcome to only the second episode of CFE TV. So let's get in and about it. It's the match preview for Southampton versus Burnley. Welcome to CFE TV. So, hi everyone, welcome back. Basically, it's been a long 3 weeks, but glad to get some football, Easter weekend. Whether I see some of it or whether I've got a rough head is another question. But like I say, we're here, we're doing another, and we have got some guests. We have got Liam, who's our Burnley fan in the house, and we have Mark, who is our Saints fan. How are you both?
Very well, thanks, Dan. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no worries. To start off with, give us a bit of an introduction to who you are. We'll start with you, Liam. Get the Burnley side out of it. What's your associations with Burnley Football Club, and what you do?
I've pretty much always lived and been brought up in the area. I grew up in a pub in Todmorden called the Glenview Inn, which is still in the family. And went to school at St Theodore's in Burnley, and that's when I first started watching Burnley on a regular basis, to be quite honest with you. And with working all around and about, my season ticket membership stalled for a number of years, but I'm now back pretty much all the time, and for the last 10 or 15 years I've been pretty much a consistent season ticket holder, and try to get to as many away matches as I can. I'm also involved in supporter groups with Burnley Football Club. I'm the secretary of the Clarets Trust, and was also the secretary of the former Burnley Supporters Board. So, and that's where we met.
It was. And how about you, Mark? What's your background? What's your story?
Well, nothing as grand as Liam, but I'm what I call a simple Saints fan. I've been a season ticket holder in the past, and obviously watching whenever I can. And but living in London, it's obviously a bit more tricky getting back to St Mary's. Obviously, the past year excluded, but yeah, just a regular Saints fan.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. No. So, your thoughts on this season, then, Mark? How do you think it's been as a Saints fan? How do you think it's gone?
Well, the FA Cup run is obviously a good thing. It's good for the club. League form, disappointing at home. I think we've had a few critical injuries. I'm not going to mention that scoreline again, but that's hard to take once, let alone twice. But that's not the end of everything. Games like that can happen. But I think this period now is critical. I think Sunday's an important game. We're level on points, obviously, but just to push us a bit further up the table. Got the FA Cup semi-final at the weekend, and then we've obviously got the run-in, finishing at Tottenham. And there's, as I say, there's no easy games, but I think we'll be all right. We started very well. We had a bit of a lack in the middle period, but overall, survival used to be the main aim, I think. But these days we're looking for a bit more, especially after the Europa success, and that was great for the club. I mean, it was great seeing Inter Milan at St Mary's was just great. So I think we'll be all right, but I think we'll kick on next season, and we've got a few good new players coming in that are only getting blooded at the moment. If we can hold on to Danny Ings, which I think we will, I think that'll be a good start to next season. But I'm looking for a good finish this season.
No doubt. I think both sides will take it. Liam, what's your perspective on Burnley then this season?
So I would say that for the last 2 seasons, I've been probably more steady state throughout it all. I mean, if you look back at the start of the season when we were completely hamstrung with injuries, it looked like it was going to be a horror of a season. But as soon as we started getting the likes of me and Tarts back as a centre-back pairing, you started seeing it solidify a little bit more in defence. And then slowly but surely, we've started seeing bits and pieces of performance has come together. Sean Dyche always speaks more highly of the performance than I perceive it to be, with the exception of Everton, the game against Everton. But I think that with the form that we've shown, let's say in the last third of this first 2/3 of the season, if you like, I'm more positive now than I was at the start, but I wasn't dreadfully negative like some of the other guys that you speak to on the various chat groups and what have you. I'm involved with the No Day Never crew, and I'm probably the least pessimistic out of those guys. I love them to bits, and they're far more superior knowledge than I have about football, so they've probably got a good reason to be pessimistic. But yeah, I'm reasonably positive. I think we're going to get those points to get us over the line and stay up. And I think that we've had some significant performances, like the likes of against Liverpool, and of course, not the least, the last one against Everton.
Yeah, it's been a tough old season for both sides, really, hasn't it? We'll touch on what you said, Mark, then about the FA Cup run. I mean, your last game, obviously, against Bournemouth, it's the derby that's not a derby, isn't it, really? But to get that resounding 3-0 win over them, obviously, hopefully results like that against those teams, that are classed as sort of derbies to a degree, can also sometimes spur you on, especially at this time of the season. Could also give you that, that kick up the backside that you need, especially in games like we've got on Sunday. Yeah,
and obviously a few of our players are coming back from international duty, so that might impact the squad, like the Vestergaard and the Japanese lad. He's just come back on a 14-hour flight, back from Japan. And all the COVID stuff, they're obviously leaving the club's bubble, but the manager was saying there's intensive testing, and so it's a different time, isn't it, right now? It's side injuries and the fact that there's no fans there, But just on derbies, but Bournemouth, we don't consider that a derby at all. They're in a different county for a start. They're in Dorset. We're talking about clubs in Hampshire, right? And it's Portsmouth. They're our main rivals. Of course they are.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So for you, I'll go to you, Liam. Who's been a key player for Burnley this year in your eyes? Who's stood
Nick
out
Pope.
And sort of got us over the line?
Nick Pope. Without a shadow of a doubt. And he's had the benefit of being there throughout the season. The stalwart that he saw last season, like Westwood, who had a reasonably strong season last season, and Charlie Taylor, they've not either been around or been in as much form, and the likes of Barnsley and Wood have not been around enough either to get to form. I think you can see that Wood's probably getting to form, but Pope, I mean, he's just been awesome. And if we hadn't have had Pope at the start of the season when we didn't have the centre back pairing, the results could have been much worse. I mean, we scraped some draws in the early part of the season that we would have lost without Pope, without a shadow of a doubt. So Nick Pope.
Yeah, 100%. I'd probably have to agree with you. I can't say anybody else really. I mean, obviously you touched on the centre back partnership coming back. That core three there really has been pivotal, keeping us in games, especially. For you, Mark, who obviously, I mean, Danny Ings is obviously the star of the show, but you've got a lot of, you've got Diallo coming through, is it? I think in the centre of the park.
Yeah.
Ward-Prowse has found his feet this season. I mean, he picks up at times. For you, who's your sort of standout?
I was just thinking as Liam was talking, and we've got a lot of players that are having some great games, and they are being consistent. But obviously, Ings is getting the goal with James Ward-Prowse as skipper. Obviously, we know what he can do with with free kicks. But his general play, you saw him scoring an open play for England in the week. So that's a real boost. But Stuart Armstrong, he's been fantastic in midfield. He's really been pulling a lot of strings. We've missed him when he's not been around. And then we get people like Theo Walcott and Redmond. Reds. They can come on and fly down the wing and bring something else to the game. So I think Theo might be on the bench this weekend, but hopefully Danny Ings will be back, and he should be hungry for some goals. And he's got it in his locker. You've seen it. He's not I know some make him out. I don't think he'll go to Man City. I don't think he's quite the right caliber. He might do well, but yeah, I think Ings is the one that's getting the goals. But it's been a team. It's been a team effort. I know every team is always a team effort, but I don't think there's really been one player that stood out. The keeper's been great. We've had a rotation through the FA Cup and the league. But yeah, I think I'm not unhappy with this season, but it could be a lot. It could have been a lot better.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you have got really good players. I mean, I think Vestergaard's quite a brilliant defender.
Brilliant.
Really solid. I mean, you've got the reliable Yoshida. At times
he's gone. Hasn't he? He's gone to. Did he go to Inter? No, where did he go? Yoshida. Yeah, he's gone.
Has he gone on loan or has he gone permanently?
No, he went. He was sold. I'm trying to think where he went to. Maybe it's an Italian club. Maybe it wasn't Inter, smaller club. Don't recall.
I thought Inter were a small club. But no. So touching on previous meetings, obviously, this season you've had your 1-0 win. You've had your win over us, so it's our turn on Sunday. But is there any previous meetings between the two that stand out for you? And I'll go to you, Liam, first with
that. Well, quite a few of the previous meetings that these two teams have had. Mark and I have been together at least for the majority of the day, with the exception of 90 minutes during that day anyway. So Mark's had the pleasure of spending some time in the stand that you're representing right now, Dan. So, I mean, on that basis, my memories of Burnley Southampton and Southampton Burnley are always about me and Mark getting together and catching up in a non-work situation.
Yeah.
But I do remember, and I can't remember precisely what it was. We were away at Southampton. It might have even been FA Cup, and I think we were getting fairly well beaten, and Vokes or somebody was somewhere out of the area and scored quite.
Was that like an header that sort of like glanced from the edge of the box and somehow just found its way in bottom corner, weren't it?
Yeah, and that was a great game. And then all fans were getting G'd up and getting him to shoot from anywhere. But like I say, it's one of them games that you go into where it's who's on form at the moment. There's no out and out clear winner. I enjoyed all the games. Some of them have been a little bit boring, like a lot of the Burnley games, to be fair, where it's just that solid, workmanlike performance. But it made all the more pleasurable for Mark coming and visit us in Burnley and us going down to Southampton to meet him at an odd match down there. So.
Sometimes they're the best ones, though. When you've got people you can go to, you can have a good crack. A bit of money behind the bar, so to speak, and you can make a day of it. It's good when you can do that. I mean, what is there any that stand out for you, Mark?
I think I'm trying to remember, Liam. I was looking at the fixtures before. So we had one in February 2019 at Turf Moor. That was the end of the 2018-2019 season, and that was 1-1. And then the last time, and then I think we did a Southampton before that, but that was, I think that was 20.
Oh, 2017, wasn't it? And that was.
Yeah, and then 2019 was the last time we came to Turf Moor. That was August, the start of the season, wasn't it? And you beat us 3-0. But do you remember we were just walking to the ground and you said, and it absolutely, we didn't have any umbrellas, did we? And it absolutely lashed down. And I'm not kidding. Our cut t-shirts and trousers were just like wringing wet. Absolutely didn't really remember.
Yeah, my mother lived just around the corner from Turf, Dan, and we basically had to go and descend upon my mum's house straight after the match so that we could dry off for 2 hours. Yeah,
but so what we did after the game, I mean, we're still wet through. We've been dipped 3-0, right, which is, and then I say we went. So I came out the ground, we said we meet by the club shop there. So here I am, and I'm looking for Liam in a sea of men in, the claret and blue. and everyone sounds like Liam. Help, they're coming up there. Help, they're coming out here. And I'm like, oh, is that Liam? Liam? And it's like, there was about 10 blokes that I thought it was Liam. And then he appeared. He says, come on, we're going to my mum's. And we went round, had a cup of tea at his mum's. And it was nice. It's nice. And it was good to let the crowds die down. And then we headed back to Liam. But yeah, they're always a good day. You know, win, lose or draw. It's, I think we're old enough now not to get too depressed. And it's not the be all and end all.
I don't want you being too depressed, Mark, but on the basis of that previous meetings from the 14th of Jan in 2017 up until the 15th of Feb 2020, Burnley were unbeaten against you until you beat us at the start of this season.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll take that. That's a good one. I think I will come to predictions later, but.
No, it's like I say, your first win at Turf Moor in the top division since Mick Shannon scored the only goal of the game on 6th of March 1971.
Incredible.
I weren't even a twinkle in my dad's eye at that point.
But in fairness, I wonder how many of them seasons we've actually been in the same league where we've had the opportunity to.
Yeah, true.
It's been certainly 70s and 80s, and I mean we had a spell in the Championship and then League One. Not too long ago. Yeah.
When
did you get promoted, and how long have you been in the Premiership now?
We went up in 2009, came straight back down.
Yeah.
And then was it 2 seasons in the Championship, then back up?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think was it down again and then up?
Straight back up, champions.
And then stayed, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're on a good run.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've done all right.
Yeah.
Definitely punched above our weight. It's a bit like Dash has always said, really, that we've sort of, kept a level grounding, but also, demanded more of what we can actually achieve.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that showed the season we got, into European football. It was just such a unfamiliar season to see, because I remember going from, talking to my mates when we were under Stan Turner and Steve Cottrell, etc. And we'd get to Christmas and we'd just lose a run of games in the Championship. And it'd be like, is this being done on purpose or what? Are we ever going to see Burnley in the Premier League or what? Is it a financial aspect that we need to sort of like, lose a few?
You hit on an important point there. We got to Christmas and then we went on a run of games. Christmas has always been a bit of an Achilles heel for Clarets. With the exception of year before last when we had Joe Hart in nets and he switched it round in the game in between Christmas and New Year, and then we went on a winning run that was, I think we were top at form table, weren't we, for a period of time?
Yeah.
We would have, if we'd have gone on second half of the season, we would have ended up in top 6 or something daft like that. But it's the breaks in play that always seem to affect Burnley. So hence when we've played Everton, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead or whether you're going to go on to it, but it was such a good performance and lovely to see and refreshing. But then we've got the international break, and whilst we've got people still ticking over going training and some of our players on international duty in various places, that it always worries me, does that, and coming back, the first performance after that, it's almost like they're just gelling and clicking properly. People like Wood are starting to find form and confidence, and then it's all, then there's a pause. I always worry about the breaks.
Yeah,
it's like saying earlier, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at a video, I think it was on Facebook earlier, and it were, Harry Redknapp were talking about these weekends. He uses them as free weekends because he don't understand why putting England on, playing against some bloke who's working in a shop during the week, and they're grinding out, 3-4-0 wins. But then when it comes to a tournament, we just, we're like camel shit, basically. We just don't do well. We just, we're lost in the middle of a desert, pretty much. We just nothing. So I can understand where it's coming from, and I understand that's probably, the belief, especially on an England fan perspective. But obviously it's been nice to see a few Burnley players, and obviously, like yourself, Mark, see a few, Southampton players come through, internationally, not just for England, but, in different nations as well.
Yeah. I think we've got quite a good blend. But the biggest trouble is like Vestergaard. He's a great player, and if Man City or Tottenham come in for him, and it's potentially Champions League football, and they're going to triple his wages, what would you do? It's the days of Matt Letizier's loyalty are long gone. And I understand it. Jeez, if I was someone offered me triple my money and it's a far more lucrative job or club, then I get it. But so I think we can get the most out of some of these players by getting them Premiership experience. Like I know Van Dijk was at Scotland in Celtic, but he came down. No one was talking about him being Rolls Royce then, but he was. He was awesome for us. He was incredible. And we know that these players are going to go. Ward-Prowse might be an exception, but still, even if Arsenal came for him and it was big money and it was Champions League football, he could potentially go. But as I say, we've got a good academy. There's a lot of players have come through there. There are a lot of players you touched on at the beginning that are coming through that we're sort of getting first glance at. I'm not as avid as I don't watch the under 21s, but I look out for the results and see who's playing, and so I'm confident of the future. But it's realistic to expect that we're not going to keep all of our top players. And if you think of every player that's played for Southampton that's currently still playing, it's not a bad team.
You've had a good youth system as well, though. You've always seemed to have churned a decent player out. We've only up until recently, I mean, apart from Dwight McNeil, we kind of had to bleed some of the others through just due to inactivity in the market, etc. But it's I think obviously you look at Walcott, Bale, Nathan Dyer. I mean, who used to play for us both. I mean, even he came through the youth system. So. You've done you've obviously, it's been quite a few years since you started to have that flow of bled through talent, and obviously it's starting to show again now that you've got the old guard back in Walcott. He's come back to play obviously in red and white, and you've got your youth players coming through. So is there any former players? Can you remember any former players that have played for both clubs?
Right, Jay Rodriguez is the.
Yeah.
He came. I think he came from Burnley to us, didn't he?
Yeah.
And didn't Danny Ings play for you?
Danny Ings did,
yeah.
Who else?
It was made in Burnley, was Danny Ings, just like J Rod, just saying.
Yeah.
Was it? I thought he was born in Southampton.
Yeah, but I mean, as a blossoming footballer.
Right, yeah.
But we've had Wayne Thomas. Oh, that Vauxhall, did you say?
Yeah, I think Vauxhall played for Saints.
Did he? I'm not sure. I know we had Charlie Austin.
Oh yeah, Charlie Austin.
Crouch.
Croucher.
He was only a young lad when he played for you. I think he was pretty much an understudy at the times where you had pretty much like James Beattie and.
Yeah. Oh no, I know Crouch played for us, but I'm trying to think if I saw Crouch. How long was he with you then?
About half a season, or something like that.
It wasn't long, was it?
Yeah, about half a season. I think he had a couple of. What's that, Mark?
I think Crouchy played in that game August 2019, I think.
Yeah, I think he did, didn't he? Didn't he try to? I think everyone just kept telling him to shoot from everywhere, didn't they? As soon as he came on, dying minutes, everyone was just telling him to hit it and all. Just
he did, yeah. And he was, because I was at the way end, and Burnley were attacking that end, yeah.
No, but Jack Cork's another one. Jack Cork for me with Southampton is a bit of a tricky one because obviously in 2009 when we got promoted, we took him on loan from Chelsea. In fact, I think weren't he with us the season before in the Championship as well? Liam, do you remember?
Yeah.
And I think we took him on like 2 or 3 years. It was something like that. And then obviously, I think we wanted to sign him permanently, but at the time, finances were scarce. So he ended up going Southampton. For me, when he went to Southampton, I felt like a bit like, shit, we've missed out on a good one here.
It's a good plan.
And, I think while they were with you, we were talked about for England. And has he had one cap while being in Claret and Blue, Liam? Sure it were, weren't it? He had one cap, didn't he? He came on the second half appearance or something like that. But there's, youngsters. You've had Danny Fox, Joseph Mills, Chris Baird, Steve Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Chaplow.
Yeah.
He were. To be fair, between Chaplow and J-Rod, they've had a similar running because they've both had obviously that Southampton Burnley thing, but they've also both played for West Brom as well.
Oh.
Same as Chris Baird. You could stick him in there as well. But I enjoy looking back at former players that played for both teams because it's sort of sometimes you look back and you think when did they play for them, or you just obviously some.
Yeah, I'm surprised by a couple of them.
But obviously, moving on, Liam, we've got obviously April. I don't want to quote it, but a month of Sundays. Now, the way we've been playing at the moment, obviously we've managed to have a goal here and there because we've been pressing quite well. But before that, we probably couldn't have even scored in a month of Sundays. So, it's a shock. Obviously, I can understand the TV fixture at the moment and how it's going, and it's chop and change. Luckily, it's not bums on seats sort of thing, because I think there'd be quite a few pissed off people that are having to swap train fares and all sorts of stuff and hotels, etc. But how do you think we'll get on in our next 4 games?
Well, like I say, I think today's a very important game. For the reason that we mentioned about the breaks. It'll tell us a lot today, and I think that if we come away, on Sunday, if we come away unbeaten, then I think that's a good sign, because that maintains a level of confidence. There's no easy games, is there, right?
No.
And I think that if we can nick 1 or 2, maybe 3 points here and there, within this next month of Sundays, I think we'll have done well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've lost 1 in our last 8 league games now. Obviously, take the Bournemouth result aside, and Southampton obviously being able to do it. I mean, that's good going for us, especially how we've been. I know a lot of them have been draws, etc. But take the Tottenham loss. At the end of the day, I don't even think we got out of. I don't even think Tottenham got out of second gear, really. It was just we were very poor. But also, we've been screaming for a welcome rest.
Yeah.
We've been saying about how, Dash has come out and said about the fact that we need to rest players. We've been, it's been sort of a championship fixture list, hasn't it? Tuesday, Saturday sort of thing. And it's kind of been congested, but even closer than that.
Yeah.
And I'm not just speaking for us. Obviously, Southampton will have had the same. You'll have had your run-ins of, Tuesday, Saturday, or Sunday, Wednesday, etc. Do you think, Mark, that you've got that advantage of kind of fresh legs, especially after the game against Bournemouth? You've kind of got that momentum to keep pushing on. Because obviously, I can understand you, Liam, thinking, the break, it's an iffy period. Are we going to gel? Like you say. Where with Mark, obviously Southampton have had the game against Bournemouth. They've had that time to get a game under the belt. How do you see it, Mark?
Well, as I said, we've got a few players back from international duty, and the press conference was just before you came on air. And I think I got the gist that most of them they've all come back okay. But again, we've got Walcott coming back. He might be on the bench. I'm hopeful that Ings will start. But yeah, I think the break has done us well. And I was just looking just to check the fixture. So we've got Sunday, and then we've got more time off, obviously because of the FA Cup. But then we go to West Brom, and then we have our Leicester FA Cup, and then we go to Tottenham. Then we have Leicester come to us. Then we go to Liverpool, Fulham at home, Leeds away, West Ham away. Leeds at home. So there's points there, but as we know, as we get towards the end of the season, if Fulham are shit or bust,
that could be.
So they could be some interesting games. But I think as a squad we're okay. I think we're coming out of a bad period, and that gap between, I think, how many did we have go abroad for international? Maybe 4. I know James Ward-Prowse came back early, which was good. But yeah, I think we'll be all right. There's some tough games there, right? Liverpool, has their season gone? You know, we beat them at home like you did. I think that was a strange period for Liverpool, but I don't think they're going to win the league now. But I think that's always going to be a tough game, isn't it? I mean, we're similar clubs, in size. We're never going to. We can beat Man City, Liverpool, on the day, but you go in being optimistic for a draw, right? But these games, with all due respect, I'm sure Burnley look at us. We're about the same place in the table. If we were 4th at the moment, it'd be a different game, right? Burnley would still think they could beat us, but it's a harder psychology. But where we are now, we're bang on 33 points. I think we're just out on difference.
Yeah.
The away element, someone was discussing it yesterday. Is if we lost that because of the fans? Are away games now just, it's not as difficult as it's been in the past? I don't know. You've still got the travel. I think they're professionals at the end of the day. I think.
The fans G you up, right? But they also have an impact on you as an away team, and I think that there's some sort of balance to be had there. And in terms of looking at it, I could probably point out on various chat groups that I'm on that there'll be some people that say that we should be winning this game. There'll be people that will be snatching your arm off for another one of them 1-1 draws, and there'll be some people worrying that we need to beat Newcastle because we're not going to get out at Southampton game, right? And then you've got a couple of tough games after that. But what do you think is the magic number this season? So we're both on 33 points, Mark. So what do you think will get you safe?
If you look at the games, I'm looking 6, 39. It's got to be mid-late 40s, hasn't it?
Nah, I reckon
lower than that.
Top half at 30s, 36, 37, 38.
Yeah, I was going to say around 38.
I haven't got the table in front of me. I don't know what the bottom 3. I don't know what they're on.
So Fulham are 3rd from bottom, and they're on 26. Yeah.
Yeah, another. Yeah, a win for you here. You think you're safe?
I'd say we're safer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There are some games remaining where you would expect not to come away with a defeat.
Mm.
Yeah, 100%. Who've we got? We've got obviously Southampton, Newcastle, United, and then Wolves.
Yeah.
For us, and Wolves are, you don't know what sort of Wolves you're going to get on the day.
Mm.
Man United probably is the tougher test out of just because of the club. But like I say, I think if you look at them 4 games that we've got, 6 points sees us safe, I think.
Yeah.
Away from home, no matter who we're against, obviously I'll always take a draw. I'd take a point from an away game is, you're taking something away, no matter what. That's how I always seem to look at it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting for both sides.
Yeah.
Ideally.
I look favourably on our last fixture, which is Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Right, and they're almost throwing the towel in, although they've managed to pull some performances together, even though that they might not have got the rub of the green. But by that stage, they will probably be almost have been down for a number of games, right? And if we're not mathematically safe at that point in time, then we'll be going all gung ho. I would have thought, even for a Daesh team.
Yeah, I think you've got to as well. Sometimes you get them sides that are already down, aren't you? That they're playing with that freedom.
There is, yeah. I'm gonna just say that then. Yeah,
it's difficult. I think obviously both sides have got a difficult run of fixtures, and fingers crossed. Both teams are still playing Premier League football next year. I just want to touch on the fact of both managers, really. I mean, Mark, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on Hasenhüttl, if that's how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Hasenhüttl. Yeah, I really rate him. I think he's a really solid manager. I like the way he goes about his business, and I think the board have shown. I think when we had that big defeat, there was concerns that it might just be, we can't have that. But they've stuck with him, and we went on a reasonable form. As you say, I didn't quite realise that the bottom two clubs there, they're almost gone already, right? If you're talking about 36 to be safe, and then you look at those around us, I think we're both going to be. We've got enough games. A couple of draws for a couple of points could be enough. But it's a shame that we're thinking like that, right? It's I want to be up there for challenge for the Europa League because, as Ted said, that was and I'm sure you agree, Liam, that was a great experience that season. Whether you got to go or not, the fact that you went was even better. But just to have that on a Thursday night,
it was very expensive, but it was well worth it.
Yeah,
100%.
So I think he's the right man for the job. I think, hopefully he'll be here next season. I think he's signed another 2 years, but I might be wrong. So I hope we're looking at long term for him because I think he can bring a lot to the club. I think he's proved that already. And very happy.
Well, like I say, hopefully stays on. That kind of brings me to you, Liam. A lot of, this time of the season, a lot of media talk, a lot of Crystal Palace keeps coming up and other various jobs, I think Palace obviously more so with Hodgson and maybe retiring, etc., whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think the message is clear in it. We need to keep hold of Dash.
Yeah. And Dash has his critics, right? I remember many a match day when I've been sitting in Block 8, James Hargreaves upper, hearing all the critics flying across the pitch at him. But I think it's probably been the steadiest manager that we've had, certainly in my lifetime. And I look back and I include Stan Turner in that, and Stan did some awesome stuff, right? But in terms of when rumours come out, I never know. I normally keep my powder dry. What I would say is that before the takeover, you definitely knew that there was something up because he was coming out and speaking more openly in public or being quoted more openly. You knew that something was wrong, and if you didn't know directly, you would have read between the lines. Since the takeover and since Alan Pace has come in and he's now doing operational job as CEO as well, since Neil Hart left, you can tell that the relationship has changed, that there's less emphasis on get the money out of the wallet and more emphasis on we'll spend the money at the right time with the right people, with the right players. And I think that he's now got more confidence in the board. This is only my opinion, of course.
No, 100%.
And I think as a result of that, if there would have been any knockings coming in from the likes of Crystal Palace or those teams, they're probably less of an attractive offer now, because if you think it's Northampton, right? So he comes up here, picks Ian Warne up on the way, and the Ian Warne, he rents a room off him in his house somewhere around here, right? Crystal Palace, it's a longer journey for him, right? So it won't be a case of, that's just round the corner for me, so I'll go and do that. But equally, it might be, it's not that much further of a journey. I just think he's settled. He's got that much respect. They didn't end the frigging pub after him, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, be dropping a lot by leaving us. And I just think he's got that much of a legacy and that ethos built into the players and the team. And the team and the club is the town. Let's not forget that. So it's quite tight knit. And that whole thing about you mentioned before, effectively getting more out of the sum of the parts are not equal to their individual amounts. I'm sure Mark will correct me on that quote, but But it's all about something that that Joey Barton said on one of his gigs that he did up in Colmuna. He said, "You can forgive talent failures, but you can't forgive effort failures. And so long as they're putting the effort in, yeah, it's Sean's job and Ian's job and Ronnie's job to work on the talent and the skill. So what he's got at the moment, he's got a really good team of players, which is why I think sometimes it's more difficult to bring players in. You can't just say, "Oh, we'll get 25 million out and get hold of him. He can score a few goals." He's always going to be the right person for Sean Dyche and see it fitting in with the team. So yeah, I rate him very highly, and I think that the takeover and maybe the way that the relationship has evolved with the new chair will help retain him should any further suitors come to the door.
Yeah, because I think next season's his last season on his contract, isn't it? I think it's 12 months as a next season. So obviously something's got to give there, and fingers crossed it does. Predicted lineups. What you thinking? I'll start with you, Mark. Obviously, people coming back from international duty, etc. It could be a bit of chop and change.
It could be. I think. As I said earlier, I'm hopeful that Ings will start. That he's fit enough to start. But if he doesn't, Shea Adams has had a good week. He scored his first goal for Scotland, as you probably know. I think Armstrong's going to be back in the midfield, back from international duty. So I don't think we'll see much change. Maybe Theo Walcott on the bench as an option. He might replace Redmond at some point in the game. But I don't think there's going to be too many surprises. Obviously, Vestergaard and Oriel, we miss. Obviously, he's injured. He's out for the whole season now. But, people are stepping up. And you touched on, we've got a couple of younger players that are coming through. Nathan Teller, I'm not sure on his fitness. I'll have to rewatch the manager's pre-match briefing just to get the lowdown on some of them players. But, yeah, I'm number one, I'm hoping for an Ings start. I think that'll be good for him. I'm confident. Back at St Mary's, raring to go. Obviously out to prove a point. And interestingly, the manager's pre-conference, I'm going to watch it again, but they asked about Ings moving on to Man City. And he said he's come to us, he's played well, he's scored goals, but he's had a few injuries. And, and he basically said, I'm not sure if he's the right caliber for Man City. Mm-hmm. I have to rewatch it.
Interesting that.
Sounded like a bit of a dig, but
trying to put him off the tent.
I don't think they would have him as a reserve for Aguero. I mean, let's be honest. Aguero or Ings, Aguero all day long. And I love Danny Ings.
But with Aguero going at Man City, there's a position to fill. I mean, you've got Gabriel Jesus, who's I mean, he has a good run of games and then he drops off the centre of the earth. You saw that with Sane, and that's why he obviously got shipped out. The thing is, if you was trying to look at it from Ings' perspective, he could think, well, hold on a minute. I went to Liverpool. I tried it there. Yeah, okay, I had my injury doubts and things like that. But then obviously he went down to Southampton. It's where his family are. It's, it's not far from his home.
I'd like to think
it's a tough one.
Yeah, I'd like to think he'd stay, but we touched on it earlier, didn't we? I'm not suggesting they'll triple his wages, but would he want to go to Man City? They're going to win the league. Well, it looks like they're going to win the league this season, right? So they're going to be strong next season. Is he right? I mean, yeah, I suppose he could fit, but it's a bit like when, I've forgotten his name. I've gone blank. But yeah, people can move to these bigger clubs and not quite work out. I think his Liverpool career was the 2 ACLs, wasn't it? I mean, that's didn't really get going, did it? But
no, I think he scored at Merseyside derby, got injured, and that were it, pretty much.
Really. Yeah, I'd like to think he'd stay. I mean, he's not 25, is he, Danny Ings? I think he might be 29, maybe.
Yeah, he's coming up towards the back end of his 20s now, surely.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
So what would you say, Liam? Obviously, we know there's not going to be any Robbie Brady again. So
yeah, it's a funny one that. And I were a massive fan of Robbie Brady when he joined us from Norwich. But in the last season or so, when he's featured, all the sort of comments I've heard about have been reasonably negative. I still think he's got something, but maybe it's like one in every 3 or 4 matches, and maybe he needs to have an injury-free run. So I think it'll be pretty much same as you were, right? I'm not sure where Taylor is in terms of his recovery, but he wouldn't normally slip back in. And I'm just trying to remember now whether Peters finished Everton with an injury or a knock of some kind. So
yeah, I'm sure he got a knock, didn't he? I think towards the end of the game.
Yeah. So that position will be a surprise, whichever way it goes. But it'll be the usual of the other 3, with probably Bardsley on the bench in case to fill in for Loups. Brownhill, Westwood, McNeil, and Johan. Did Johan get a clean international session?
I think so. I think he played a good 60-odd minutes or something like that. I'm not sure.
So it'll probably be those 4. Bench wise for midfield. I'm not sure if Cork's available.
I'm not sure. I know he's back on grass, I think, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's tricky because of the injuries that continue to come in. And then it'll be Wood and Vids up front with my new neighbour, Jay Rodriguez, probably coming on at about 68 minutes.
Oh, so he's moved over near you, has it?
Yeah, just round the corner.
Oh, happy days. So, again, moving on. Score prediction. What we're saying, Mark? How do you think? Please don't tell me you're going to sit on the fence.
I would hope for a confidence boosting win. Like a 2-0, a 3-1. Maybe Ings to get on the score sheet ahead of the FA Cup game. I'd like a 2 or 3-0.
That's very confident, extremely confident, especially if it is going to be one of those games though where it's going to be a scrappy, dull affair or a very open, one side takes it all. So it's I'm
hoping for a good game, as always. But they can be, I think even the 1-1 that first game we went to, I can't remember. That was not a bad game. Obviously, the one we lost was good for you and the whole crowd. The little Saints fans sat there, freezing cold. I think we're due a win. As I said, 1 win in 5. It's just not good enough, and performance at home have not been there. So I think get the guys back from international duty. I think there's a few of the lads are back in training. And I think they're all keen to go. And, no disrespect, but the same way, this season people look at Fulham and they look at Sheffield United. They're games that you think you should win, but it's just not like that anymore in the Premiership, is it? Burnley can come 2-0, it's... That's what makes it exciting, I think. But from a club point of view,
that's what I prefer. That's what I prefer as fans of both sides. Really, I mean, Southampton and Burnley, we're not sides that can go out and you're going to get that resounding win every week. You've got to fight, you've got to dig deep week in, week out, and one injury, not even to a key player, but just a player that sort of fits the system, can just completely, kaput your whole season. So it's tough. Like I say, we're both in that fight. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed you can have your 3-0 next game. Get it out of the way next game if you want, but not on Sunday, please, not on Sunday.
Okay.
But for you, Liam, what do you think?
Well, I just think it's got one all written all over it, and probably 0-0 to be fair. Having said that, Burnley's away form hasn't tended to be draws. It's the home form that's draws, right? I think away it's win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, which means that if we follow that form, we're going to get beat on Sunday. But I just think that it's got a draw written all over it, and I can't see Nick Pope conceding. To be fair, so yeah, I'm going to stick with 0-0.
James Ward-Prowse, free kick on the edge of the box. Saucy.
Given away by Tart, trying to be a bit of a flair player.
See, I'm the same as you. I think a draw, but I'm going to go. I don't know. Something's telling me 2-2, and a VAR controversy. That's what.
You don't need a crystal ball for that bit, do you?
No, not the last bit, not the latter. Definitely not. Definitely not. But honestly, thank you both for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant. If you've got any socials or channels you want to plug, now's your chance. So fire away.
Yeah. I'll certainly raise the profile of two groups that I'm involved with and very much care a lot about, and that's the Clarets Trust, the shareholding supporters representative group for Burnley Football Club, and not the least at all, but the No Nay Never team, who work very hard, and I've been very quiet recently. And I'm only hoping that we can get back to going to matches, because I used to play quite a big part interviewing people after the match, after having quite a bit of sauce. So it added a bit of spice to the overall pods. But they're a great team and they work really hard. So yeah, thanks for that, Dan. No nay never.
Yeah, no problem. And yourself, Mark, is any?
Well, the club has a thing called the Saints Foundation, which do a lot of work in the local community, not just food banks, but so much different stuff. And actually, for the Burnley game, our kit sponsor have donated the shirt space for the Saints Foundation, and then they're going to sell all the shirts, the match day worn shirts, as for charity for the Saints Foundation. And they're also asking to donate £10, which is because we're not going to games, and to donate £10. And the sports, is it Sportbet.io?
Yeah.
They've agreed up to 100,000. They'll match the £10 that the fans donate, as well as raffling up the shirts. So yeah, Saints Foundation. That's the plug I'd like.
No problem. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming on.
Yeah,
it's been great.
Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. So thank you, everyone. Remember, please do like, subscribe, and follow all our socials on @CricketFieldEnd or the Cricket Field End. Link is in the district. What is it with me? Description or written at the bottom. Feel free to, like I say, give us a follow, and fingers crossed soon you'll be able to join us on the channel. Thanks for now. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.